Welcome to the Krista Redpath Show, where sports take center stage and stories come to life. I'm your host, Krista, veteran analyst and passionate storyteller, bringing you weekly in-depth conversations and sharp analysis across the world of sports. The Krista Redpath Show, breaking down the game, elevating the story, and championing the female voice. Today's show is proudly brought to you by the Big Sky Conference and Vertical Rays. This week on the Krista Redpath Show, I'm continuing to take you around the Big Sky in women's hoops, and our next stop is Portland, Oregon. I'm joined by Karlie Burris, the head women's basketball coach at Portland State, who is now in her first season leading the Vikings and opening a new era for the program. Burris brings championship experience to Portland after spending 4 seasons at UNLV, where she was part of one of the most dominant runs in women's college basketball. 4 straight Mountain West regular season titles, multiple conference tournament championships, NCAA appearances, and national top 25 rankings. But her story starts much earlier, growing up in Tucson, Arizona, starring at Sal Point Catholic and playing collegiately at the University of Portland. Right here in Portland. She came up during a golden era for women's basketball when the WNBA launched. Arizona women's hoops was a regular in the NCAA Tournament, and the standard for the game was rising nationally. Today we'll talk roots, mentors, championship culture, and what's next for Portland State's women's basketball. Karlie, welcome into the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Krista. I appreciate it.
You know, it is so much fun to look back at where it all begins. And I just want to start back in Tucson, Arizona. What was it like to be raised in Tucson?
I love being raised in Tucson. I was raised in Oro Valley, which is just north. So it was an up-and-coming neighborhood, a lot of new builds. A brand new high school was built there, but I ended up going down by the U of A to Sal Point. But it was incredible, obviously really warm. I was a multi-sport athlete, grew up as a coach's kid. My dad coached my sister and I in both softball and basketball. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. I played football with the boys in 8th grade. So I kind of did it all.
So you grew up during a really special sports era. You know, Arizona men win a national title in 1997. The women are in the tournament almost every year. The WNBA launches. You have the Diamondbacks, MLB expansion team, and in 2001, they win the World Series. That was a lot to watch and dream about. Were you really involved in the sports scene all around your state?
Definitely super involved. I remember when the men won the 97 national championship and watching it all the way through. I was 10 years old at the time. So I remember just being super, super excited. Lute Olson was an idol in our community, still is. And I actually played high school basketball with his granddaughter, Kelly Olson. And so her and I were really good friends. And so just to have that connection was amazing. But obviously went to Arizona women's games, Joan Bomassini, Hall of Fame coach, which again, being able to be her graduate assistant towards the tail end of her career at Seattle U was just incredible to be able to learn and work with her. But yeah, just the baseball around. We had the AAA teams down there when still spring training was in Tucson. So was around all that. Grew up watching Arizona softball with Mike Candrea, again, a Hall of Fame coach. And Felicity Willis, who's a ref now, who played both softball and basketball at the University of Arizona. That was kind of the dream for me as I was younger. But yeah, a lot of really great sports in the city of Tucson and obviously in Arizona in general.
So what took a hold with basketball? Because it sounds like you had so much opportunity, Taekwondo, softball, but what really drove you to continue to play basketball?
So the sport that I always just gravitated towards was basketball. Where softball, I loved the games, but I was just always so bored during practice. And with basketball, that's what I was doing at recess with the boys. I grew up with boys and had really good guy friends. So just on the playground, played with boys up until middle school, basically. And so, the YMCA leagues, still on the boys team. And that's just where I had the most fun, whether it be practice, messing around, or in the games. And so basketball just really had my heart.
So what kind of player were you in high school? Like, what did you take the most pride in your part of the game?
Yeah, I would say definitely on the defensive end. I always had a little chip on my shoulder, whether it be in club or at the high school level. I had an incredible high school experience. I played with Sybil Dostie, who ended up playing at Tennessee and then transferred back and finished her career at Arizona State. I played with some guards. One went on to Harvard. My starting point guard played at Denver. And so we just kind of had a stacked team there. And so, yeah, it was just really, truly an incredible experience for me. So, yeah, I would say on the defensive end for sure. I was playing out of position. I was a shooting guard in college, but in high school, I had to guard, the 6'5" post players up in Phoenix. And so never really backed down. So I think the toughness piece to that. And then again, when you play with Sybil Dosti, your job was to give her a paint touch, which, post entry passing is a lost art now. And so I take a lot of pride in being able to get my post players the ball, which I did at the University of Portland as well. And so I always wanted to make my teammates shine on either side of the ball. So I would say that's kind of what I hung my hat on.
So Sal Pointe Catholic. So talk about that experience and that's a program that's really known for discipline and competitiveness, or your basketball program. But what did that teach you about work ethic and accountability?
Well, definitely. I had to be up early. I was a public school kid who went to private school for high school, and so had to be up early to make sure that I could make it into, central Tucson, which was a 30-minute drive. And so it was intense being a freshman on varsity for, to start your high school career with really good players surrounding you. There's a lot of expectation. My first year, we had Mary Hauser as our head coach who, her sister's known in California, and just the level of pedigree she had as a player as well as a coach. So her standard was pretty high. And so she operated kind of like a college program, which I think we had that from the academic piece, the basketball piece, the time that it went into it. And so it really prepped you from an early age that you had to be locked in on all facets of your life.
From Arizona, you head to the University of Portland. Can you talk about your recruiting and why you chose the University of Portland?
Portland came on late. Sean Kelly was the associate head coach. He was at UP with Coach Sollers for a long, long time. And he got on me pretty hard late. But then I mentioned Lori Payne, who was an assistant at the time, just starting her career. Sean kind of pawned me off to her, and her and I had a great relationship, which matters, as we know, in coaching. And I had some good relationships with some other schools. But once I took my visit, stepped foot on campus, it's a gorgeous campus. If you've been there, you're up there on the bluff. And the players were really, really welcoming, which some of the other schools who I won't mention, I didn't feel as welcomed. And so, again, that matters. And I always tell our players that you are the ones doing the recruiting. You are the ones who are going to play with these players. And that piece matters. We used to say that all the time at UNLV. If we had a kid on campus and our players didn't mesh, we're going to take that into consideration. So I stepped on campus at UP. I loved the conference. Yes, I was moving up to the rain, but I knew that I would have that LMU and Pepperdine trip every now and then.
It's so true. I played for Montana. I'm a little bit older than you, but we definitely had some battles with Portland. So I remember how beautiful the campus was. I'd love to hear you talk about Lori Payne. She was such a staple in the Big Sky Conference. I'm going to miss her. Really good friend of mine. Yeah. She moves on to Santa Clara. She did really good things at NAU, but it is so much about those relationships, right? And you want to feel that connection with coaches.
Yeah, no, definitely. Sollers was really good friends with Robin, obviously. So we played Montana in the non-conference every single year. And that's back when, they still get a really great crowd, but that's when it was just packed. And so I used to love those games. The band is there harping on you. But that was incredible. But yeah, so Lori recruited me. We got really, really close. She was there my first 2 years and then moved on to UW, to her alma mater, to be an assistant. So, it was really, really cool. I still spent time with her because then her former teammate, Kayla Burt, was our assistant. And so we just had a lot of ties. And then when the NAU job opened up, I remember her reaching out and just asking about Flagstaff and the community and all that stuff. So it was really cool to see her grow that program and all of her success that she's had.
So you were a two-time All West Coast Conference honorable mention. How did your role and leadership evolve over your 4 years as being a pilot?
Definitely. We stepped into a program. Coach Sollers had some really good years in the late 90s. They were an NCAA team. I was there in the early 2000s, freshman year, 05, and they were kind of on a downhill skid a little bit. We only won 4 games my freshman year. And so it was a challenge. It was a mix. I came in with 4 other freshmen. And I think that's part of it, seeing it grow. We got better every year. We were competing with Gonzaga our junior and senior year at the top top half of the conference. And that's when, I was guarding Courtney Vandersloot. They were just stacked. Heather Bowman, who's, should be in their Hall of Fame if she's not already. And so it was just really fun, the level of basketball, the level of commitment that we had. Obviously, this is before the portal era, and so I think I only saw one player leave my whole 4 years there. And so it was cool. It was cool to see it build and grow. And I think that core group that we had, and obviously our coaches added some really good pieces, and we were committed to getting better.
So your postseason run ended against Portland State in the WNIT. Now you're leading this program. It's kind of a full circle moment. Has that really hit you?
It has. So our practice gym now is the gym I played my last college game on. And so, I hear the men practicing right now, right next to me, because they built some offices right here. But yeah, it's total full circle for sure. I thought it was great that we made it to the WNIT my senior year, which, like I said, it was an uphill battle, but we got there and was really proud. Anyone who's played at this level knows how hard it is to win Division I college basketball games.
Absolutely.
And to do it and stay committed, I thought was a great testament to our group. But it's full circle for sure. And I feel grateful every day that I'm able to be here at Portland State.
Were you always thinking coaching, Karlie, as you were a player? Like, how quickly did you know that coaching was the next chapter for you?
I think I always kind of knew, again, being a coach's kid, your dad's usually a little hard on you than the other teammates. And I was just always an observer. And like I said, I was always all about making my teammates better. And I think that lends really well to coaching when it's not particularly about you. It's about who you're around and who you're surrounding. So I think it was always kind of in the back of my head. And then, like I said, working for Joan Bomassini as a graduate assistant really just was exciting, and the level of impact and relationships you can build, which I learned early on. I just kind of knew this was going to be what I was going to do.
So you got your start at Seattle U as a graduate assistant and video coordinator. How did that shape you at the very beginning? Talk about that first experience.
Interesting that you said that. There's a big girls tournament going on right now, and a former UW player is coaching one of the Washington high schools, and she was just joking with me about how I was doing laundry and all this stuff at Seattle U. So this was back when, staffs weren't as big as they are now, and I was doing everything. I was video coordinator, I was ops, I was helping with ops, we were doing everything, and honestly wouldn't trade that experience for the world, just how much you're learning about a program and what it takes, and no job is too small. And so, yes, I was able to do that, but then also able to sit into those staff meetings with Kristen O'Neill was Joan's associate at the time, really great career, obviously at UW as well. And just to, see how Joan let her assistants coach, and she wanted their input, and just loved that from a Hall of Fame coach who was still trying to learn even that, late in her career.
Your first assistant job is in the Big Sky Conference at Northern Arizona. During that time at NAU, you recruited and developed 2 Big Sky Freshmen of the Year. One that I really remember, Alyssa Rader, who went on and transferred, but boy, what a player she was. Can you talk about that early experience and that early building of the foundation of your first assistant position?
Definitely. Again, another job that you had to step in and wear a lot of hats. We didn't have ops at the time at NAU, and I was the youngest assistant, so I was learning a lot at a rapid pace. But I was fortunate. Sue Darling had been experienced. She was at Arizona prior to that, and so, was a great assistant coach, and she by far was the most organized coach that I've worked for. So just learned so much from her from an operations side of it. But then I was fortunate enough to work with some assistants who had been in the game for a little bit. Jamie Shadian was there, elite recruiter, played at the University of San Francisco, had a really great career. And then Robin Bostic, who also had been around for a long time. She's doing great things at Oklahoma State right now, but some, older assistants who were there to guide, and part of that was recruiting, and then just part of that was how to handle yourself and go about your business.
So the next step for you, coaching-wise, is Cal State Fullerton. What made you make that move? And was that the biggest leap you made as a coach during that time?
Yeah, I mean, I was at NAU for 5 years, and it was close to home, 2.5 hours, 3 hours from Tucson. I love Flagstaff. I feel like it's a combination of Tucson and the Pacific Northwest. So other than it being hard to get to, I absolutely love Flagstaff.
And that's one part of the Big Sky Conference that a lot of the coaches talk about is the challenges of getting to Flagstaff. And I do remember flying into Phoenix as a player, and then you're flying in and it's beautiful weather, and then you're going through like a snowstorm to get up to Flagstaff.
Absolutely. I feel for Coach Dink over there, but she's been through it, and so she's in a beautiful spot. But it was an unfortunate situation that happened going into our last year at NAU, and we had to make do. Coach Darling, that was her own situation, but and so had to make the move to Fullerton. Yes, I knew Lori and wished her nothing but success, but she also needed to do her own thing and start new. So Sean Kelly, again, this is where my previous associate head coach had connections, and I was trying to make a move, and so he set me up at Fullerton, and I was lucky that Raina Perez followed me because we recruited her really, really, really hard to NAU. So I was lucky she followed me to Cal State Fullerton, and we ended up doing some decent things at Fullerton.
You talk about Raina Perez. She went on to become Conference Player of the Year. What do you look for when projecting who a player can become, not just who they are like right now? What kind of player was she to coach?
Yes. Again, she's a separator. Coaches say they don't have favorites, but it was her mental, which, again, you're looking for now, just especially even this day and age, her mental toughness and, a 5'4" point guard. We started recruiting her freshman year of high school, and, she got overlooked. She had some looks for sure, but, we were committed to her, which I think does still matter even now. And so her, that was, again, before the portal. She had to sit out that first year. She learned a lot at Fullerton, I think. And, she went on to be Conference Player of the Year, when we were a middle of the pack team, which says a lot about her and her work ethic. But again, just her mental approach to the game. But, I do think me and the staff have a knack. Carrie Nakamoto, who is an elite recruiter at Cal Poly, and just what she's done of kind of finding those diamonds in the rough and knowing kind of what you can make out of them.
Well, I'm loving going through your resume because you now head to Utah State and you're the defensive coordinator, essentially, under Kayla Ard. What was it like to work for her?
Yeah, it was another first-year head coach, I guess my first. And so it was interesting. Again, you're trying to build a program from the ground up. I think Logan, Utah is absolutely gorgeous. I love their facility. That was a weird time, obviously, during the COVID stuff. And so we couldn't have full fans and all that. But you learn a lot about, recruiting and what you're trying to do in step one of building a program. And so, again, everywhere you go, you're able to learn something. And then, I was really fortunate that Lindy had an opening at UNLV and jumped ship to go to, a really successful team, or was in the making to be.
Well, and I'll tell you, those years at UNLV, now we are in the transfer portal era, right? Where you're re-recruiting your own roster every single year, but 4 straight Mountain West regular season titles, 3 tournament titles, back-to-back 30-win seasons. I mean, it just incredible under Lindy LaRocque. Talk about those years at UNLV.
Yeah, I think when we were in the moment, we kind of knew how special it was, but you won't really feel it till you're that far removed. But I think we knew while we were in it what was going to happen. It was really great. I was playing against her in the Mountain West that first year, her first year as a head coach. And, I need to inherit a Desi Ray Young as well. That would be great for me. But no, Desi was great that freshman year. I thought, they had a lot of solid returners on the team that year, but she made the most out of them. And then that next year, I thought we did a really great job in the portal. They signed some freshmen before I got there with Alyssa Frescus, Alyssa Brown. Just, again, I thought some recruits who were recruited, but a little under the radar. But it matters. Retention matters on your staff, on your roster. And, that run we had, I thought we did a really good job of keeping those core pieces together.
Well, when I look at Lindy LaRocque and I look at some of the things that she's accomplished, I love one of her sayings, the way that you do anything is the way that you do everything. What did you learn under her that helped guide you and create your own coaching philosophies?
Yes, Lindy is as advertised. She is elite just in terms of her preparation. And again, I talked about Raina's mental approach to the game, but that's basically what Lindy is from a coaching perspective. All she knows is winning. She doesn't know anything else. And so she has that advantage when your expectation is to win. You have that standard. Obviously, recruiting definitely matters. We had really good players around us and pieces, but she loves that saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. Our team has heard that, discipline in the details. We were hyper focused on the details, on the execution, on being the most prepared team. So it wasn't just talent. We were locked into the scout and took a lot of pride in that. And so Lindy is a very good coach and one of the best in the country for a reason.
Today, I am visiting with Karlie Burris, the head coach for Portland State. This episode is proudly brought to you by the Big Sky Conference and Vertical Raise. So, Karlie, you accept the head coaching position at Portland State. What stood out as the biggest opportunity for you in Portland?
Yeah, again, this is going back to Lindy and what I've learned from her, one of the best coaches in the country who's turned down multiple Power 4 jobs because she's in a really good position. She's in her hometown. She's, the mom of 2 young kids, has her parents and her nanny and her husband right there. And she was the first one to say it's very rare your personal and professional align. I got married last August, and my wife is a Nike exec. I played against her in college. She's a Portland native, but played at the University of San Diego. And so, again, this opportunity presented itself from the personal lens. But more than that, I played my college basketball in this city. I've coached in the Big Sky Conference. I do think Portland State is unique, especially with Sac State leaving the conference. We're that urban setting. We're right in the heart of downtown. We, just added the Portland Fire back and the W team, and I know how
that's so exciting.
Yes, I know how great that relationship could be when, Vegas and the Aces, just how close we were and how their success tied hand in hand with our success. And, again, I was at the University of Portland when Megan Rapinoe was winning the national championship. And so, those stands were filled at Merlot Field. And I do know that Portland shows out for women's sports. And so it was just a really exciting opportunity to come back to the city of Portland.
So early on, what were the first standards and values that you wanted to establish within your program?
Definitely. It's interesting. Everyone says when you move that seat over, it's going to change. And it was interesting. Really early in the spring, obviously, I had, my coach's packet and all that stuff. But what it all boiled down to really early in the spring and the summer was that I wanted our team to give their best max effort, which, again, sounds so simple. But obviously, sometimes the simplest things are the hardest things to do. And so preaching that every day, stealing a little bit from Lindy and just what I learned there, being intentional with our focus and our preparation is something that we talk about, again, every single day, is the intentionality behind everything we do, and everything has a purpose. And the last thing, again, I think just goes to me in my coaching and how I was as a player is being a great teammate. So I can't say how often we say that here at Portland State, but we say it a lot. If our players aren't doing, acting, behaving, thinking, believing in a way that helps us win games, then they're doing the wrong thing. So those are kind of the things that have stuck out to us early.
And so now that your season's underway and we're heading into the second half here with conference play starting in January, what have you learned the most about your team early on? I mean, you had some really nice non-conference wins. The San Jose State, the Kansas City overtime win was great. The Seattle U. Can you talk about what you've learned about your team in those wins?
Yeah, we got a nice mix of, some vets and some newcomers. Again, I think I had a unique experience of taking over a team with everyone stayed. So I had 9 returners. I had 4 of the incoming freshmen who signed with the previous staff stayed. And then Ajay Yokum, the senior, wanted to come back home for last year. So, my job was done pretty easily. So we have a nice blend. And obviously, as a first year, that's good and bad of having, some seniors, some vets who have been part of a previous system. But I thought we've done a great job of trying to get on board, not looking back at all. When we beat UMKC on the road, I didn't know that was the first time in, X amount of years till our sports info comes out with it. But
that was amazing. Andy went crazy over that. I got his press release and it was so exciting.
Yeah, Andy was pumped. But
Got to give a shout out to Andy, too. He does such a great job. He's awesome with his coverage and keeps me up to date, sending me pronunciation guides, helping me out. He's great.
Yeah. Andy does a phenomenal job covering us. But so we're not super hyper focused on those sorts of things. We're just trying to take it day by day. We're trying to get better. Winning on the road is great, obviously, but, we still have a long way to go.
So can you talk about Kylie Brown? I mean, she is second in the Big Sky for scoring. And, I have a segment. My last segment each week is with Carla C.T. Taylor each week, and we talk about each team. We've been really impressed with her, and we just keep thinking, like, you put a few more pieces together, and you're going to explode offensively. But can you talk just a little bit about her play?
Yeah, I think she's taken a big jump, and again, with her, it's been the mental since we stepped foot on campus. Haley King is her position coach, and she was fortunate to work with Essence Booker, Kiara Jackson at UNLV and just help in terms of their development, who are now playing professionally. Amarachi Kimson, who's now at Miami, crushing it. And so just from a player development piece, I think, again, I'm going to keep saying a lot of it goes back to the mental approach. Kylie has all of the physical traits. She's left-handed, which I think is an advantage. She gets fouled so much. I know she gets to the free throw line, but it's just hard to call it. Her body control is so on point. And then again, she can go with either hand, but obviously being a lefty is huge. But for us, it's just, she is our main threat, but also knowing we're trying to give her some help, and again, I think we have some pieces coming in next year, but to start conference and to finish conference, we do need to give her some help. But she's an incredible player, 3-level scorer. But I will say, I do think she's gotten a lot better on the defensive end, which for us is huge.
So where do you see the biggest amount of growth with your team now heading into conference play?
Yeah, I think just from a statistical piece, our rebounding margin, I don't think we were a great rebounding team last year, and we don't have a ton of size. Ajay's my 5 player at a whopping 6 foot. So, I think just, again, our intention of rebounding on both sides of the ball has to be huge, because we still need to do a much better job of taking care of the ball, which as you know, this is a very press-forward league, which I'm not familiar with from the Mountain West. That wasn't our style of play, and I knew that coming in, but we have a lot of growth opportunities from that perspective. But our rebounding and our ability to get to the free throw line, which to me is paint points. We're trying to get our guards in the paint, obviously our forwards touches, but Kylie especially being able to get downhill. I think Laney's done a really good job of trying to be a little bit more aggressive this year, our point guard from Hawaii. And so to us, those have kind of been the two markers, is rebounding and free throw attempts.
The Big Sky is deep and competitive every night. You talk about that aggressive style of play. What excites you most about competing in this league as a head coach?
Definitely. I was at NAU starting in 2012. Coach Benford was there, and obviously Robin was still in the league then, and it was just incredible. You'd walk into Dahlberg, and you'd see all the banners. So again, that there's history there. The Montanas have led the way for a long time, but really like what Idaho's doing. Again, they're winning in the transfer portal with those relationships from San Francisco, which is incredible.
Arthur Morera is doing a great job, isn't he?
He's crushing it. So you can't say enough about him and his staff. I've known Drew for a little bit. And so it's awesome what they're doing, to be honest. But, Seton has been at Idaho State since, I was an assistant there. He's done a consistently good job for a long time. So there's, some length in our league. There's some pressing, and so really good coaching, and so I'm excited just the opportunity to try and get better and counter, and that's part of what we're trying to do.
So Karlie, beyond the wins and losses, what does success look like in year one for you?
Yeah, that's a great question for us. Again, it sounds simple. We're just trying to get better every day, which again sounds really silly and simple, but that's what it is. We have a standard, and we ask ourselves that every day. Are you giving max effort? Are we intentional? Did we lock into the scouting report? And if we're doing what we need to do and not beating ourselves, then we feel good about it. And so we've had multiple conversations where that we for sure beat ourselves in these situations, and the win-loss isn't there. But if we're dialed into what we need to do, and whether we win or lose, we'll be really happy with that.
So you said that your wife Samantha was also a player. So do you rely on her? I mean, do you guys talk hoops? Do you still have any friendly games of like competitive one-on-one in the driveway or anything like that?
She was an incredible player. I guarded her in college, and we were the same position, so that was fun. But we've only played one game of horse, which I won. But
okay, well, let's keep track of that. Let's make sure that makes it into the interview.
Yes. We're gonna have to, but she's very good at pop a shot. I'm very serious about that. But no, she has a great basketball IQ. You know, of course, she has some thoughts, but she knows when to press and when to not. So she's learned of what she can do. But so supportive. I mean, she's been great. As we all know, as coaches, family is so important. The support we have, her to have the understanding that she has. We've had multiple team dinners, and luckily she's been the one hosting those and has provided the delicious food for us. You know, got the team all gifts and baskets, and so she's been an incredible support.
So when people look back at your time at Portland State someday, and I know you're a young coach, you're going to keep going for many years, but what do you hope they'll say about Karlie Burris and the culture that you built at Portland State?
Yeah, I'm hoping that we say we're a tough, gritty, connected group that is representative of this city, which I do think we are Portland's university, given that we're right here in the heart of it and so diverse. And so I want people to come to these games, to come into Viking Pavilion and think, wow, I want to go play basketball at Portland State because of how connected they are, how much fun they're having, and how much they care. And so getting out in the community has been important to us and supporting, you know, those different organizations. But that's what we're hoping to do.
So, Karlie, it's been so much fun visiting with you today. Is there anything you want to add or any additional shout outs?
Well, I need to thank you for having me on. I know you're doing all the Big Sky coaches, but this is incredible. And I can't thank you enough for your support of not only our program, but Big Sky basketball in general, and just excited for the future and what we're doing here at Portland State.
Well, thank you, Karlie. It's so fun to get to know you. And I mean, I could just go on, and you have so much of a basketball pedigree, but you bring such a good championship mentality to Portland State. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch you over the years. So thank you for today.
Thank you so much, Krista. I appreciate it.
Welcome into Hoop Hits with CT, Weber State's most winningest coach, Hall of Fame coach. Welcome in, CT.
Thank you, Krista. Happy New Year, 2026. And finally, Big Sky Hoops. We get to talk about teams in the Big Sky playing each other.
Well, isn't that true, CT? We've been waiting for this, right? You and I have been waiting for this. Now, we talk about how there's 3 different seasons. We got the non-conference, then we got conference, and then it kind of starts over in March in Boise. But this is like a kid in a candy store for you and me. I mean, I was so pumped to have this first weekend, opening them up and just seeing what these teams are made of. So let's talk just a little bit about Weber State. They were on the road this weekend, kind of had a tough one at Portland State.
Right. They had to play without Antoinette Imanopu, who was for an injury, I think a concussion protocol. So Weber State struggled, but, you know, kudos to Portland State coming out with a first round win in Big Sky Conference. And, you know, they've been getting so much closer, and Weber State unfortunately loses their rebounding machine and someone who can score at will inside the paint as an undersized post player, as my baby Barkley. But, you know, anything can happen, and it's going to be a dogfight every single game, whether you're at home or on the road. And, you know, Weber State unfortunately loses one, and good for Portland State to start out with a win.
Got to give a couple shout outs to Portland State. I mean, they definitely dominated on the boards. They won by 10. Leading that charge was Cece Ellington with 16 boards, CT. That's pretty monstrous. And then Kylie Brown, just doing Kylie Brown things. She had 18 points. And then my girl, Hannah Chicken. 17 points off the bench. I do.
You love that name.
I love the name, but I think she's a legitimate player, and she's given Karlie Burris just great minutes off the bench.
They hold Weber State scoreless in the last 6 minutes of the game. So not only do they have the Kylie Brown scoring, but they're also playing some tough defense. And with, you know, first-year head coach, she's doing a great job. And, you know, just so fun to see, you know, past women's player from the area do well and start out with a win at Portland State.
Well, moving along to Montana at NAU. Now, this was a game of multiple ties. There were 11 different lead changes. NAU jumped out in the second quarter, 34-26. Montana makes a run. Boy, you got to hand it to NAU for just getting it done at home.
Absolutely. Naomi White is the real deal, a skilled, dominating scoring machine, and she's going to continue to rampage through the Big Sky Conference, I'm afraid. You have to find an answer for her, but even as a team, NAU, very unselfish. It's not like she's, doing it on her own, whether she's distributing the ball, and I think she had a double-double in that game. She, teammates finding her, teammates scoring as well. And, and the flip side, Montana, Matt Koenig, Matt Koenig played her heart out and scored for them. And just down the stretch, Montana struggled to score, and NAU found a way. And as we all know, it's tough to play at NAU. Yeah,
so true.
It was hard.
It was so true. Montana's plan is just to get, Matt Koenig downhill, which she does. I mean, she can break just about any player down in the league, but then you got to make shots because that is Nate Harris's bread and butter. That's his system. He wants to have that one-on-one action, but then leave his shooters to go ahead and knock down shots. I will say this about NAU. I mean, I think Coach Harris said, hey, Naomi White's going to get her points, but we got to make sure we stop other scorers. And Audrey Taylor, wow. I mean, she really had a game, 17 points, 5 for 10. She had a career high for threes. This is a player that stuck with NAU, right? We saw the change of the guard with Lori Payne leaving, and this is a kid that stayed with NAU. She only averaged 2.2 points last year, but she really was a force in this game. And we talked about this. If NAU can utilize multiple weapons outside of Naomi White, they could be a real force.
I was really impressed. It was the first time I really had seen NAU play against someone other than Arizona, some bigger teams. But to watch their chemistry and to watch their unselfishness, and then also, just their feistiness. I was impressed with NAU. I'm going to do some damage in the Big Sky, there's no doubt.
Madison Watts had 9 rebounds, 10 points. She was another one that really came up clutch for NAU.
Again, like we said, just a well-rounded team, and Coach Dinkins has done a great job bringing them along, not being frustrated with the losses early in the season, teaching, coaching, and getting them ready for the Big Sky Conference season.
Now, we know it's a tough road trip for the Montana schools, right? To go to UNC, to go to NAU, you're not flying directly in to Greeley or Flagstaff. You're flying into Denver or Phoenix, and you're taking a bus. So this is this just really shows how the Big Sky is spread out. So I want to talk about Montana State at UNC. That was also a game where you might have tuned in at the beginning. Montana State's up 26. You think, oh, they got this one in the bag. And then Krista Matteo's like, no way. We're coming back and making this a game. And they brought it within 4. And CT, I really feel like if there would have been 5 more minutes in that game, UNC could have pulled it off.
Yeah. This goes back to, and I've said this for years, the number of years that Kristen Matteo's been in the conference. She does a great job of adjustments defensively. She'll make adjustments defensively if a team is picking her apart. She changes things. She throws different looks at the opponents. And then her players started to get hot. And then once they get hot, start gaining confidence, then the tables turn. And, you get up, was it 45-16 or something that Montana State was up? Your players have a tendency to relax. That's a pretty big lead. And as a coach, you can yell and scream and encourage or whatever, but until those players flip the switch to get back into the mode that Montana State plays in, it's tough.
Well, and it was a bit of a track meet. Montana State had 24 turnovers. UNC had 27. So that should just kind of tell you how the game played out. I do have to point out Heather Bayman. I mean, just a fantastic 33 minutes off the bench. She finished with 26 points. Just real great offense for UNC when they needed it. Nina George with 19, Gabby Fields with 10. They just utilized those multiple weapons and really just came at Montana State.
And they've been doing that the whole year. It hasn't been one or two players carrying Northern Colorado. It's been different people at different times coming in. And her depth and her different just strengths within her offense gives so many different looks for people to have to defend. She's big, or she can go small. And there was a perfect example of having that diversity of different types of players that can come off the bench, start, not start, and really make an impact.
So I want to keep talking about UNC because then they host Montana, and Montana then flips the script and comes out just shooting lights out from the get-go. And you see and Abby Schubert hits a couple threes right away to get Montana going. But again, to credit Krista Matteo, they just kept grinding, and second half adjustments were huge, where UNC held to Montana to just 7 points in the third quarter. She made those adjustments. Just to speak to your point, Krista Matteo just doing great things.
Her basketball IQ, her ability to make changes, to see things during the game and then make the adjustment, and her team able to make those adjustments, whether it's a zone, whether it's a press, whether it's a man trap or whatever. She's not afraid to throw the kitchen sink at teams. And if you're not ready for that as an opponent, she's going to get you. And that's kind of what happened with Montana.
She really punished Montana in the paint, too. 30 points. And Nia Hall had just a heck of a game. 9 rebounds, 19 points. I mean, this Heather Bayman, too. 29 points. Come on. Where does she find her?
Nia Hall doesn't do much in the game before, but look what she does against Montana.
Exactly.
It's just, it's impressive what Northern Colorado is doing, and excited to see, obviously, tonight they'll come into Weber State, and I get to see them firsthand, which I'm excited to see. It's when you're sitting on the floor watching it, you just get such a great look at teams and what they're doing and what coaches are doing, and being on the table with that call. I'm excited to see Northern Colorado against Weber State.
So CT on the call tonight, NAU at Weber State, and then on Saturday, UNC at Weber State. Whatever, CT. It's just amazing you're calling both of them. I'm so excited. I'm finally calling a game tonight.
I know.
Idaho at Montana. So, I want to get to Idaho, but first I want to give some more kudos to Idaho State. They sweep on the road. So they go to Sac State, which is a dangerous team. Coach Koloff has some weapons, right?
Never an easy place to go in and play. And Sac State traditionally plays better at home. And you go in there, and for Seton and his team to come out with, a win there, and then also a win at Portland State, they are... I like this word, but they are the junkyard dogs of the Big Sky Conference. I watch them play, and I don't know how Seton gets them to play so physical, so much energy, so much effort, every single possession of the game. They play 40 minutes full out, and it's not like he's subbing in, running people. But the effort from his team is unbelievable.
Well, and they just dominate on the boards against Sac State too. And I you know how I feel about Tasia Jordan. I think she's one of the best players in the league.
She was amazing the whole weekend. She does her thing. She scores, but Casey Spinks did a great job.
She had 11. Aspen Caldwell, 14 points. So, they're playing without Sophia Cavello. We don't really know what's going on there, but they're down one player, and they just they're playing really good team basketball right now. And they continued that at Portland State and got another good one. Tasia Jordan had a game with 20 points, and Piper Carlson had 12 rebounds and 10 points. And so, gosh, you got to hand it to Coach Sobolewski.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how he gets the effort out of his team. He needs to bottle that up and sell it, because it's worth $1 million for the way his team plays, and the effort that they give is just incredible. It's incredible.
Well, we know Idaho State will be there when it counts. And
Absolutely.
So that's a very dangerous team, and I'm really loving the way they're playing. The final game I want to talk about, Idaho at Eastern Washington. Now, both of these teams just only had one game to open up conference play. What did you think of that game, CT?
I thought it was a really well-played game. Obviously, those are two well-coached basketball teams. Arthur Morera, we love him. He makes adjustments. He uses the players that he has to their strength. And you have Jody. Jody is Gleason on the other side. I thought she has a great team this year too. And it was a battle back and forth. And for Idaho to go into Eastern and pull that one off, I say kudos to University of Idaho, because that's not an easy place to win. Jody does a nice job with her teams.
She really does. I do think Eastern had some timely turnovers. They just turned the ball over, and Idaho made them pay. I can't say enough about Elin Bowers, though. I mean, their Wyoming product, I mean, she had 20 points, and Ella Gallatin, I mean, they get up and down the floor. And then, of course, Courtney Grossman with 22 boards. I mean, how can you even, counter that? I mean,
my Montana Grossman girl, she's amazing.
You know,
how do you get 22 boards?
And what she does, CT, extends even further along the stat sheet, because she gives second chance opportunities, right?
Yep.
So she
keeps
gives
things alive.
She does. She's that junkyard dog. You like that term?
She truly is. No, she is a junkyard dog. Anybody that can rebound like Courtney Grossman is a junkyard dog. She really, the effort and the strength and the mentality to go after every single basketball.
So Idaho, led by Hope Hassman, that to me just gets things done all over the floor. She makes an incredible defensive stop. Then she, finds her open teammates. She was all over the court. And Kira Gardner, also the Washington State transfer, just really good leadership. But I was impressed with Lorena Barbosa, their 6'5". She had 9 points. Anna Pinero also had 15 points. So what I'm seeing out of Arthur Morera this year is a lot more offensive power.
Right, and consistent offensive power. I mean, they share the basketball, they find the open player, they get out and run. Their defense leads to their offense, and they're another team that is very solid. I don't know how to explain it, and his focus is on rebounding, and they dominate on the boards.
They do.
They're playing great defense. They make things difficult for their opponents, and then they have all these scoring weapons. Whew.
They had 9 players score. Okay,
right.
and that can score more than one basket. So it's not like they're just coming in and getting a fluke score.
No.
I mean, they have contributors. He's got Deborah DeSantos with 19 minutes off the bench, Mary McMorris with 14, Anna Pasos with 20 minutes off. So he's got a pretty deep roster. And that could really serve him well down the stretch.
Deep and talented.
Yes.
Yep. Deep and talented. Whew.
Well, I can't tell you how excited I am to finally be on a TV call.
I know. I'm so excited. I'm sad that I don't.
7 p.m. Yeah, we're going to be. We'll get a chance to talk about it next week, CT. But we're not going to be able to watch each other. So
I might get home in time to watch you though, because we start at 6.
Okay. Well,
6 tonight. So one more thing. Big shout out to Tom Schultz.
Oh, yes.
Time Montana State Sports Information Director. Love the man, what he's done for the number of years, whether it's with opposing coaches or for what he's done for Montana State. Got to give that man a big shout out.
Isn't that so true? Tom Schultz has been the epitome of Montana State. And I think about when I was a player, he was there. I mean, every bit of championship caliber basketball that Montana State has had, Tom Schultz has been there. And he's seen it all. He's seen the pendulum shift. He's seen multiple coaching staffs. He's watched Coach Binford just command her presence. But there is the silent killer on the sideline, Tom Schultz. And he really welcomed me down in Bozeman, CT. And that's not an easy thing to welcome a Lady Grizz down there. But professionally, anytime I had a question about anything, I could reach out. He really has had a tremendous career. We're going to miss him.
Yeah, no, even when I was coaching and would go in there, you always looked forward to seeing him before the game, and he never missed a chance to visit with you and, talk shop a little bit, but just more so as a person, the person that he was and the way he made opposing coaches feel. But yet his loyalty to the Bobcats, amazing. Happy retirement.
I sent him a note, and of course he said, it's going to be really nice to now just be able to attend games and not be having to manage it. So I guarantee he bleeds blue and gold. So he will be there, and just happy retirement, right? It's hard earned, and he's very deserving.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, CT. This is such a great segment, proudly brought to you by the Big Sky Conference. I'm going to throw up a link. It is not too soon to be thinking about Big Sky in Boise. Coming up in March, you can get a nice discount if you click on the link on my Instagram page, and you can get 10% off. So thank you to the Big Sky Conference. Also, huge shout out and thanks to Pete Hamill of Vertical Raise, your premier online fundraising platform, for sponsoring this segment. CT, thank you so much. We'll have a lot to chat about next week.
Okay. Thanks, Krista. Take care.
Thanks as well to Karlie Burris, head coach for Portland State, for the insight and for taking the time with me today. And thanks to all of you for listening. This week's episode of the Krista Redpath Show is brought to you by the Big Sky Conference and Vertical Raise. Coming up next week, a great conversation with Gentile Jackson, head women's coach for Weber State.